Welcome to rSlash Entitled Parents, where an entitled father threatens to murder someone on an airplane. Our next Reddit post is from JC Forbes. After flying, I just finally got to my flight destination after this one. I was flying from North Carolina to LA. A man and a woman boarded with 4 kids, aged roughly 4 to 8. First, they didn't book seats together, and they made a stink to get people to switch seats with them to get the 6 to sit together. After an hour into the flight, the 2 girls started skipping and running from the middle of the plane up to the cockpit and back repeatedly. They got bored of it and sat down eventually. Maybe about 3 hours in, one of their boys starts sprinting from one end of the plane to the other incessantly. Many passengers complained. A flight attendant got him to stop. That lasted 15 minutes, and then off to the races he goes again. Somebody else complains, and he stops. Briefly. By now, a male flight attendant had enough, escorted the boy back to his seat, and forcefully told the parents to control their kids. This is where I had to take my headphones off due to the yelling. The father is livid at being told to control his kids. He's screaming about the flight attendant touching his kid. He threatened to sue multiple times. Finally, the attendant yells, "Put your effing mask on and sit the F down." The father loses his mind even more and yells back, "I have your information. I will find you and I will shoot you." That's the moment that I knew my night was going to suck. It took a while, but eventually all the attendants gathered and restrained this guy. A little while later, we were told by the pilot that we had to turn to Albuquerque to land. We stayed on the plane while local police escorted this guy and his entire family off the plane. Since I was one of the few people that wasn't wearing headphones, they got my info, and they even sent an FBI operative to interview me. After that, we were told there was no fuel truck available to top us off, so they had to send one in. Then, the maintenance guy that needed to sign off on the plane was at home, and he also had to be called in. We eventually got going, and we made it to LAX about 2 hours late. So as I was reading this story, I was thinking to myself, okay, I'm not sure if I believe this one. An entire plane gets landed. I feel like this would have made a news article. So I typed in plane lands in Albuquerque due to passenger, and it's real. This is actually real. This article was posted 7 days ago. This Reddit post was made also 7 days ago. And it says American Airlines flight 482 landed in Albuquerque due to an unruly passenger who made a threatening statement towards a crew member. The aircraft was met by local law enforcement after landing in Albuquerque. Apparently, unruly passenger incidents has experienced a dramatic spike last year. With 1,000 investigations by the Federal Aviation Administration compared to only 183 in 2020. So literally, it's gone up by times 5. Wow, that's crazy. FAA officials issued a record-breaking number of fines to unruly passengers last year, surpassing $1 million in fines. So, it looks like our Mr. Entitled Father here is going to be facing a steep fine from the federal government. Also, I have to guess this guy's going to be put on the no-flight list because threatening to shoot people on a plane, like, if that doesn't put you on a no-flight list, then what would? So yeah, it looks like the internet completely backs up this story. It totally makes sense because, there were probably several hundred other people on that plane. So it stands to reason that one of these people would have been like, oh my God, I can't wait to tell this story to the internet because this is the craziest thing that's ever happened to me. So OP, I feel bad for doubting you. I shouldn't have doubted this story because it's completely legit. What a nut job. How honestly, in post 9/11, are you going to, with a straight face, tell a crew member of an aircraft that you're going to murder them? Like, what do you expect is going to happen after that? Oh, I'm so sorry, sir. Let me accommodate you. Let me move you up to first class, get you a drink, a meal. Is there anything we can do to accommodate your flight? We just want to make you as happy as possible. No. More like the secret federal agent who's dressed in plain clothes is going to tackle you along with the rest of the flight crew and put you in handcuffs and haul you off the plane and then put you on a no-flight list for the rest of your life. Whoops. I hope for this guy's sake that he actually lives in LAX and he wasn't visiting LAX. Because if he was just visiting LA, then that means he's going to have to drive all the way back across America from Los Angeles to North Carolina. If you think flying with those obnoxious kids for 4 hours would be rough, imagine being on a road trip with those obnoxious kids from the West Coast to the East Coast. Oof. Man, this one's painful. And God, if you think that having 4 kids to 2 adults is rough, why'd you keep having kids, man? Unless they're quadruplets, which is possible, theoretically. But maybe after the second kid, you should get an idea that, oh, this is kind of rough. Maybe we should stop. Nah, they just kept going. And we can't do anything. Too many kids. Well, what do you want me to do? What a couple of idiots, man. Our next Reddit post is from Elam. So this happened about 10 years ago. I was 25 at the time. This is going to be a pretty short story, but it still makes me laugh. My grandma in this story is my dad's mom, and we've never had a good relationship. I disliked her for various reasons, but as a kid, I'd have to see her during holidays or when my parents wanted a break. It wasn't so bad until I got older and I saw how controlling she could be. After I left home for college, I barely spoke to her and I only saw her twice. A few years after my wife and I got married, we had 2 kids. Anyways, my dad called me up. My dad said, "You'll love this. Grandma went to a lawyer to sue for grandparent rights." This put me on edge immediately because I assumed that my grandmother tried putting them against my kids. Grandparent rights aren't really a thing here, but I know what they are. The basics of it is that my grandma went to a lawyer and told him she wanted to sue for grandparent rights to be able to see me. The lawyer asked if we had any sort of relationship. She says that she's known me all my life and I used to visit her regularly, but really, it wasn't regular at all. The lawyer asks how old I am and she answers, 24? The lawyer starts laughing his butt off and tells her that I'm an adult, and she replies, "Well, how do I force him to visit me?" The lawyer said, "You don't. He's an adult and he gets to make his own choices." My grandma stormed out and didn't speak of it to anyone, but she ended up telling my dad later. He started laughing at her too. Oh my God. And then down in the comments, we have another amazing story from the Filthy DIL. There was a story in another sub where 2 divorcing parents were quarreling over almost everything. The wife told the judge that her husband was keeping their kids from her and she wanted custody. The judge asked if the children were present, presumably intending to ask them which parent they wanted to live with. 2 men stood up with their wives and teenage children. These children were in their 40s and had very little contact with their mother because she was nuts. Oh my God. Trying to sue for custody of men in their 40s. What I genuinely don't understand is okay, so if you're entitled or if you're just a jerk or whatever, then you would think that at some point in your life, you would have moments of realization, right? Where you're like, wait a second, I have this thought about the world and the world is telling me that I'm incorrect because I'm trying to operate in a certain way and the world is not letting me operate in that way. How do you reach grandmother age? At least 50, probably 60, 70 is more reasonable here. And she still thinks that you can sue people to force them to come hang out with you. This goes for both the original grandma and I guess the other grandma who was nuts, expecting to sue for the custody of the 40-year-old kids. Maybe it's actual mental disability we're talking about here. But other than that, how can you be so entitled for so long and never think, wait, am I the problem? Our next Reddit post is from This One Knows Things. This story isn't about me, but it's about my friend/roommate. This just happened the other day, and she's still pissed about it. She said that I could share. So she's a pre-law student aiming to get a degree in business law. Her parents are pretty successful people. They live in a nice house in a nice neighborhood. Her dad is straight up a helicopter dad who's abusive and controlling. He controls her bank account and calls her to yell at her whenever she buys pretty much anything. Why did you spend $8 at Starbucks? Why'd you get Subway twice this week? Why did you spend $50 at Target? Additionally, since he pays her rent, he believes that he can set all the rules for both of us. I told him straight up that he doesn't get to dictate my life in any way, and he can just F right off with that. My friend said that I apparently impressed him because he's not used to people standing up to him, but he still doesn't like me. One of his rules is no penises are allowed in the apartment ever. He seems to think that if there are any penises in the apartment, then his daughter can't help but F them. Good thing my cats are girls, I guess. Apparently, he thinks that his daughter has no standards. Although, he has lightened up a bit after freaking out that my friend has a boyfriend and that he stayed over before. He also demanded that she drive home every weekend, which is a 2-hour drive without traffic, because he doesn't want her to party. Luckily, she and her level-headed mother got him to lower that requirement down to just once a month. As a result, she keeps a lot of information from him, which makes him more angry and less trusting of her. So then he tightens the leash and it just goes around and around. For example, he doesn't know that 2 boys subleased from our previous roommates for the summer. And shocker, there were no orgies. He also doesn't know that her boyfriend has been living with us since May and is staying with us until he finds work. She also didn't tell her dad that she took a part-time job over the summer. Now, those last 2 bits of information are important. Since her boyfriend has been staying with us, he's also been paying utilities. She also wanted to have some fun money to go out over the summer, so she was taking summer classes but had a light workload. She got a job at the liquor store a block from us and worked there all summer and left after the fall semester started. So, because her father can see her bank account, and he'd apparently lose his mind if he found out his daughter dared to work and try to be a responsible adult, she never told him about this job and never deposited her checks. Instead, she just cashed them out. Additionally, because her boyfriend is also paying utilities, we've been splitting it 3 ways instead of half, which was showing up in her bank account since she has to pay the full bill because it's in her name. Fast forward to yesterday. My friend ended up depositing some of her cash from her job this summer to pay for last month's utilities because her boyfriend forgot to pay her and the check I gave her bounced because at the time I didn't have any money in my account. The bounced check and the sudden $100 deposit in her account caught the attention of her dad. What resulted was an hour-long screaming match on the phone. She later told me about some of the stuff that he said. He called her a tramp and a liar and demanded that she report me to the police for fraud. Dude, it's just a bounced check. He dug into her because she admitted the $100 came from her job this summer. And he started accusing her of either selling drugs or selling herself. This is where her father lost his mind. Apparently, when he found out that she worked at a liquor store, dear old dad was livid that his daughter would dare to work at such a lowly place. Specifically, he was mad that she didn't tell him that he had a job and that she should have been focusing on her schoolwork. But what he was most upset about was where she was working. It wasn't so much that it was a liquor store, but that it was retail. "Why the F would you work in retail?" he screamed. "Because it's just a block away and it's easy work, Dad," my roommate screamed back. "How dare you! You shouldn't have been working. You need to focus on school." "I didn't have much schoolwork, Dad, so I got a job to have some extra money." "How dare you work at such a lowly place! We didn't work this hard to have our daughter work retail. You should be above that. If you wanted a job, you should have gotten that office job that Marie told you about." She told me later that her dad had a real issue with retail workers. He seems to think that the only people who work retail or as waiter jobs are failures and high school dropouts. So he doesn't want his daughter to work alongside lowlives and addicts. "I just wanted something easy and within walking distance, Dad. I didn't want to have to drive 2 hours just for a summer job." "You shouldn't be working with lowlives and addicts. You should have talked to me first." "I didn't talk to you because I knew that you would do this." "This is why we can't trust you. You've always done stuff like this." Then he started listing off all of her past screw-ups from middle school to high school. He doesn't seem to understand that she's changed quite a bit since then. She then hung up on him after telling him that she won't talk about her past with him and that she's more than happy to talk about her screw-ups with him when he can talk to her like an adult. She hasn't talked to him since yesterday. Her level-headed mom called her, saying that she was sorry that he yelled at her and that he's just upset because his mother's in failing health and that he saw the bounced check, so he turned his stress towards her. I took her out to breakfast while she vented about her dad. I finally convinced her to get her own bank account where she can at least put her fun money and the cash she gets from her boyfriend for utilities. We also decided to split the utilities by half so that her dad doesn't lose his mind anymore and her boyfriend would pay us back the difference for his share. Her dad approved her getting some groceries today, so she said that she would pay me back with some food. And on Monday, I'm going to help her set up her own bank account with the one bank that this town has. From my personal observation about really strict controlling parents is that when you're a really, really controlling parent, you don't create obedient children, you create sneaky children. All you're really doing is teaching your kids to sneak around and hide information from you, because if a controlling parent ever finds out something that they don't approve of course they lose their minds. That was r/EntitledParents, and if you like this content, check out my podcast where I publish the exact same episodes. Also, hit that subscribe button because I put out new Reddit videos every single day.